Good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning, depending on where you are. I'm Alana Wilcox, Editorial Director of Coach House Books, and welcome to our first ever, and hopefully only ever, virtual Wayzgoose. We sure do miss seeing you in person, and we sincerely hope you're all staying safe and healthy. Let's hope we can meet in person next year. While you were waiting for this to start, you got to meet Gladys, our lighthearted mascot for the event. Gladys lives with Crystal Sigma, our managing editor. And with me here at CHHQ is James Lindsay, our publicity and marketing guru, and Tali Voron, our editorial assistant handling the tech for tonight. We'll ask you all to send good vibes to our sometimes dodgy internet connection, and also to forgive any tech errors we make tonight. We're better at books than Zoom. We're here in the Coach House Archives, located in Toronto, Canada, the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, under the dish with one spoon wampum belt covenant. Today, this meeting place is still home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island. We're truly grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. If you don't know Coach House that well, we're an independent literary press that publishes poetry, literary fiction, drama, and some nonfiction. If you want to stay up to date on what's happening here, please sign up for our newsletter. Go to chbooks.com and look for the big orange box. We promise we won't bug you very often. You're probably wondering what a Wayzgoose is. A Wayzgoose is a party that a master printer would throw every year at the beginning of the fall season when his apprentices would have to start working by candlelight. So the printer would hand out candles to his apprentice. We can't do that right now, but we can still celebrate the changing of the seasons in the milieu of printing. Don't ask me where the Z in the middle of Wayzgoose comes from, or Z for our American friends, or what the word means. We've been Wayzgoosing here at Coach House for 15 years. It's really hard to replicate it virtually, but normally we'd spend the past 3 weeks worrying about rain, and then today we would have a couple of hundred people milling about our printing press or hanging out in our yard. We'd be grilling hot dogs and veggie dogs, and you'd be drinking a not quite cold beer, perusing our book table, and talking with all the friends you haven't seen all summer. We like to think of it as a back-to-school shindig for Toronto's literary community, and we're happy to share some version of it with you all tonight. It's nice that we can have people here who aren't from Toronto. So maybe tell us in the chat where you're watching from. I'd love to know where you are. And please feel free to use the chat to try and replicate the Wayzgoose experience for yourself virtually. I hope you've prepared a hot dog or veggie dog for yourself. We definitely would have run out of relish by now, but I trust you're well stocked. Maybe pour yourself a cold one. Go ahead and chat with us or your friends. If you've been to an IRL Wayzgoose before, we'd especially love to hear what you're missing about it. And if you have any questions for us, please enter them in the Q&A box. Anything you put in the chat is public, but the Q&A box can be seen only by us. And I'm afraid our authors aren't able to answer questions. The Wayzgoose is often when our fall books catch their first glimpses of the outside world. This fall features a bumper crop of poetry. We have Sarah Dowling's Entering Sappho, about an abandoned settlement and the original lesbian. Ken Babstock's Swivel Mount, poems trying to build order from chaos. And Ian Williams' Word Problems, about math questions and microaggressions. There's Fauna, a gorgeously disturbing fiction about the human costs of environmental devastation by Christiane Vadnet, translated by Pablo Strauss. And The Dark Library, experimental fiction about the secret life of libraries by Cyril Martinez, translated by Patrick Stansel. We're also publishing Watch Your Head, an incredible anthology of writings about the climate crisis and climate justice. Proceeds are going to climate charities. And of course, we hope you haven't missed our summer titles, David Barry's On Nostalgia, Caroline Georges' The Imago Stage, which is translated by Rhonda Mullins, and Avant Desire, and Nicole Brossard reader. We've got authors all over the world, and we never get to bring them together in real life. But we've done that for you here tonight. Before James introduces them, however, we're going to offer you a virtual tour of our charming old building, and we'll show you how we print our books right here in our office. When we get back, we'll hear our authors read little snippets from their Coach House books. For more info about the books, please check out the chat for links. But first, I hope you'll offer up a round of virtual applause to Tali for making all this happen, and to James, who organized this whole thing, and to our bookstore friends. who I'll list later, for your support of this event and of Coach House generally. Thanks to superhero Evan Monday for the squirrel drawing, and thanks to the People's Pint who helped us promote this event and even matched up our books and their beers. We hope some of you Toronto folks took advantage of their package, books and beers. Please tweet us a photo of you enjoying it. And they've extended the promo for another week. So if you like some of what you hear tonight, maybe you'll want to buy one of those packages. So we'll show you the tour. You'll hear the readings, and I'll wrap up the end with a couple of nice surprises. You should be seeing closed captioning at the bottom of your screen. Our apologies if some of it is wrong. I don't know if the technology is amazing at this point. If you want to turn them off, just click the closed captioning button. And if you want to watch all of this again, and who wouldn't, it'll be available on YouTube as of tomorrow. So while you're watching, please post a photo of yourself Wayzgoosing on Twitter or Instagram. Use the hashtag Wayzgoose2020, and I'll tell you why later. And now we're going to show you the tour where you will see Ian Williams' word problems actually being made. And the tour is in 3 parts, so there'll be a brief pause in between, so don't give up on us. Okay, here's the tour. Hi everyone, and welcome to Coach House. Come on in. I'd like to introduce you to BP Nickel, patron saint. And this here is a linotype machine, which is the early version of InDesign. It takes molten lead and produces these things called slugs, which have a line of type on them. And then next up we've got this Challenge Gordon printing press. Again, not really in use anymore, but it is, you might recognize it from the spine of our books. It's our logo, the spinning wheel, in case you were wondering what that was. And we'll head into the type room. And here we've got drawers or cases of type. So for example, here's an 18-point Helvetica medium. If you ever need a Helvetica M, here it is. And we also have under here a letterpress or a hand press, which doesn't get used that much anymore. And I'm going to introduce you to John DeJesus, who keeps this whole place running.
Hello, folks.
And then we're going to head into the press room. And now we're going to head into the press room, which is where the real magic happens. We're going to introduce you to our Heidelberg printing press, which is from 1973. It's an offset press, and it's run by Tony Glenesk, who's been running it since, I think, the dawn of time. And you'll see that he's printing on our very special paper called Coach House Zephyr Antique Late, which is milled specially for us. Next time you buy a Coach House book, you should make sure to just feel the paper. Come on in. And last but definitely not least is the bindery, where everything comes together to make a real book. So you might have noticed on the printing press, these big sheets of paper that have 8 pages on the front and 8 pages on the back. They fold up into a 16-page booklet called the signature. We put those together, glue them, and it turns into a book. So we're going to head into the bindery, take a look at the folder, the gluer, and the cutter. The folder, which takes our press sheets and folds them in half, in half, in half, and makes them into booklets that look like this. And then they get put in the correct order and come on over here to the binder, where you see the insides of the book get glued into the cover. Like this, and then they come over here to the cutter, which cuts here, 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 and we end up with a beautiful finished book. And that's how books happen here at Coach House.
Hello, everyone. My name is James Lindsay. I'm the publicist at Coach House Books. Thank you all very much for coming. We've all been working very, very hard on this event, so it means a lot to us that you've come. I've been coming to Coach House Wayzgoose since I was a bookseller at Book City in the Annex, which used to be just a stone throw from here, about 10 years ago at least. So it's very big for me to be doing the first virtual Coach House Wayzgoose. Hopefully this will be our last one. I'm going to move right on into our readers tonight. I won't bore you anymore. First up, reading from MXT on Mount Royal in Montreal, the author of My Aerial, Expressway, Autobiography of a Childhood, Lemon Hound, and one of the editors of Avant Desire, a Nicole Brossard reader, Cena Fida.
Hi, everybody. Here I am. Thank you, Alana, and James for inviting me to be part of the Wayzgoose. I never have been part of the Wayzgoose, so I guess there's something small thing that the pandemic has offered. Here I am in my spot. Here's my trio of beautiful maple that I like to sit under. There's another one over there. This is a little clearing that I come to with my kids to meditate. And I'm doing it on the mountain because this has been one of my favorite places since this all began. I'm going to read a couple of poems from MXT, which seem to me somewhat relevant for the moment. Don't know where to look. Dear one, there you are, dear one, coiled in a garden, a hiss and a squelch of past where earlier I cut the eyes of seed potatoes and planted them 2 lengths deep. The sky, wet wool, weighed the garden and me, feet like trowels parting the past. Chickens behind me gorging on worms, Mary's deer beyond there, beyond the hash stump, where a trio of tulip eaters nuzzled. I have no deer, no stumps, no potato patch on the plateau. It's not eat or be eaten. Here my body moves easily through time. That was a pre-screen moment. That was paradise without LED or LCD or Thunderbolt display. Which is to say, we walked into it. So clean, the wind has licked the marrow from your bones and my fingerprints from mine. The forest has been subdivided, the deer stand ornamental. It's true, the roots of trees travel like neurons, carry sparks of fire for miles underground. And here we live on a cyborgian island, tear away and expose the runnel of wire and track and rats underneath. It's true. At this distance, the hairs on your forearm fire like tiny strikes of lightning, and here the roads open up and swallow city buses whole. We imagine Eliot's mind alone in the hollow, how men move like architecture into the landscape and take stock. Dear one, better to patter, better to punt, better to butter my nest, my bird dog, better to end my nub, my inside weather, my nettle of phrases, my stockpile of verbs, my heirloom nouns, lime of image, tick of cedar, my sepia wood, pea gravel, concrete totems, talk of glass. Come low, dear one, come near, come one, come push, slow push. Push back doubt, ward off stasis, heart rain, porous weather with her huge leaves, with her long waves, with her floating cities and highways, her folding gridlock, her downy limbs, high, high as seabirds, eyeing herring, way up in the clouds. Doubt my rain, my love, eat my fear, my inside ferns, my nub of cock, my root lungs, my green callus, my water columns, my sea cucumber, my sea urchin, my valiant green, cower and capes, my owlet, my cowl neck, my outlet, my lining and hooks, my hooked metaphors. Come lichen, come moss, come caper, come cougar with your soft portals, come doe with your thin springs, come childhoods with your fist of leashes, come, my modernist loves, and latch a past in a jello mold, float my heart in a rose bowl, my sincerity in a flan. I would be ornamental for you, I would spread like the hook of barbed wire, my other half useless without the knot, and coil my lamp for you, and uncoil, and uncoil, and uncoil, and uncoil. Bye.
Thank you, Cena, for that beautiful reading. I did up a button on my shirt. Did you notice? Alana said I was being too informal, so I did it up. Next up, we have reading from Avant Desire, the two-time Governor General's winner for her poetry and winner of the Griffin Poetry Prize Lifetime Recognition Award, author of Mauve Desert, White Piano, Notebook of Roses and Civilization, Yesterday at the Clarendon Hotel, Hotel Clarendon, amongst countless others, and most recently, Avant Desire, a Nicole Brossard reader, Nicole Brossard.
Three poems from Installations, translation by Robert Mezel and Aaron Murray. Sight. Each time I settle into a pronoun other than the absolute I remove myself from anxiety, pointing a finger at the changing shape of relations, but the final distress comes from the image far away. A fatal I delirious in impersonal beauty. Encore. It's never enough. Each time you roll hope around in your mouth to appease too many ideas their opposite lit. A taste for curves and for everywhere at once, with the option of crying out, should that and utopia start to collide. Redundancy. Come on. I must say, come on, if I want being together, to imagine history and the winged contour of language upends the senses. Come on. There's no redundancy when chest and breasts, girl or woman, lips and labials touch. When summer's hot, there's no redundancy when living's at high level. And two poems from Museum of Bone and Water. Translation as well by Robert Mezel and Aaron Murray. In full flight, if I spread my arms, my air slow in the oxygen, I claim there are vast laws beyond cities and sepulchres, voice ribbon, high's blade. Tonight, if you lean your face close and civilization stretches out at the end of your arms. Tonight, if in full flight you catch my image, say, it was from afar like a die in the night.
Thank you, Nicole. That reading was stunning. Our next reader said I looked too formal and I should undo the button, and he preferred it. So for him, I did. Joining us live from the Coach House archives and reading from his beloved cult hit, All My Friends Are Superheroes. And most recently, The Ticking Heart, Andrew Kaufman.
Hello, hi. I'm Andrew Kaufman. This is All My Friends Superheroes. I have just realized that although I brought my glasses case, my reading glasses are not inside of it. So this may be a little more stumbly than would normally be, but it's only be for 5 minutes, so it's no big deal. Okay. Chapter 1, Designated Waiting Area. Tom and the Perfectionist sit in the designated waiting area of Gate 23, Terminal 2, Lester B. Pearson International Airport. It's 11:15 a.m. Tom watches the Perfectionist tug at the tag on her luggage. It's the third time she's done this. Look, this is oh, there we go. Let's try this. Oh, no, that's worse. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you the story of All My Friends Are Superheroes. So I thank you so much to the good people of Coach House. The story is this, okay? This is the story. It's about a guy named Tom. So the hero's named Tom. He's totally regular. He moves to Toronto, which is it's a new city for him. And one of the first people he meets is a superhero called the Perfectionist. There are 247 superheroes in the city of Toronto. They all have superpowers, but the superpowers are not really like your Spider-Man, Fantastic Four. They're all basically an exaggeration of neuroses. So the Perfectionist's superpower is that she craves order so strongly she can will it to happen with her mind. And so they meet and they fall in love, and everything is going along great. And then they decide to get married, and on the day of their marriage, Hypno, who's an old boyfriend of the Perfectionist, sneaks in and talks to the Perfectionist at their reception, and he hypnotizes her to believe that Tom is invisible. So she spends the next year thinking Tom has just vanished, that her new husband has left her, even though he's right there. Everyone else can see Tom, but she can't. And so she finally starts to lose faith a year later, and she gets a one-way ticket to Vancouver. And because she's the Perfectionist, she'll make it perfect. When the plane lands in Vancouver, she'll leave all the heartache and the sadness and all the weird feelings behind. And so Tom buys the ticket next to her, and the book follows the flight from Toronto to Vancouver. And as they're flying, Tom is sitting there, and he knows that he has the length of this flight to convince her that he's there, or he loses her forever. So that's the story. Thank you very much to everyone. Coach House, best publishers in the country, if not the world. So thank you very much.
You ever wanted to know how to recover from a mistake? That's a very, very good example. Thank you very much, Andrew. That was masterful. Now, joining us all the way from Calgary, Alberta, and reading from Dr. Edith Vane and the Hares of Crawley Hall, the author of Monosaurus, Moon Honey, The Widows, and Venus Hum, Suzette Mayr. Keep holding it for you.
Hi, I'm Suzette, and I'm coming to you from Calgary. It's so great to be part of this event. I'm going to be reading to you from my novel, Dr. Edith Vane and the Hares of Crawley Hall, which was published by Coach House Press in 2017. And it's about a university professor who's having a nervous breakdown, and she's pretty sure that the building where she works, Crawley Hall, she's pretty sure it's trying to kill her. So in this scene, she is coming to work and she's about to meet with a student, the main character, Edith Vane. Tuesday morning, the red, blue, and white lights of an ambulance
Hi everyone, sorry for the technical problem there. We're gonna give it one more try, see if the video works that time. It's our first Zoom. I'm getting a no. Hold on a second. Thank you for your patience, everybody. No? Okay, I think we're gonna move on to our next video then. Or we're just gonna do it the audio. Okay, so we're gonna jump just back into the audio. Close your eyes, imagine this university.
Hi, I'm Suzette, and I'm coming to you from Calgary. It's so great to be part of this event. I'm going to be reading to you from my novel, Dr. Edith Vane and the Hares of Crawley Hall, which was published by Coach House Press in 2017. And it's about a university professor who's having a nervous breakdown, and she's pretty sure that the building where she works, Crawley Hall, she's pretty sure it's trying to kill her. So in this scene, she is coming to work and she's about to meet with a student, the main character, Edith Vane. Tuesday morning, the red, blue, and white lights of an ambulance, a parked fire truck, a police car revolve close to Crawley Hall. Edith parks her car in the Lung Hall parking lot. She trudges through the quad, past rusting iron garden sculptures, dirt heaps, and looming concrete skeletons of the future Sandersam Supermarket School of Business. The closer she gets to Crawley Hall, the more obvious it is that the entire backside of the building has been blocked by temporary fencing. She peeks at the action, at the police officers in their hulking uniforms, the ambulance. She sidles closer to the building, to a side door far from where she needs to be, but also far from her colleague's regular entryway. She will take the stairs again today. She has to drag her briefcase through 3 different hallways to get to the proper stairwell, but she's still early for her meeting with her student Simon from her Canadian Literature Before 1950s class. But the hallways smell worse than usual, like boiled eggs. Not just boiled eggs, but eggs boiled in manure soup. She wonders if someone had a particularly potent diarrhea in the washroom across the hall. But this smell has a dull, bitter quality, not like diarrhea or the regular boiled egg smell, but like an exploded garbage bag cooking in the sun. She taps open her email while she waits for Simon. A note pops up from the dean's assistant to the entire faculty and staff. It is with much regret that I must inform you that Dr. Coral Fletcher was involved in a vehicular accident when her car drove into the sinkhole behind Crawley Hall. Coral has suffered minor injuries but has not yet been released from hospital. The as of yet unidentified male passenger died at the scene. I will inform you of the details when I receive more information. Flowers and a card have been sent on behalf of the faculty to Coral in the hospital. End of email. Edith leaps to the window, yanks up the crooked blind. In the sinkhole behind the building, the butt end of her friend Coral's white car points up at her. The roof and doors ripped off and the edges jagged. The hole and its edges swarming with more humans, fences, yellow police tape. Edith presses her forehead to the glass. Coral. Edith's eyelids flutter, tears coiling, congealing. A tap at her office door. Simon's here. Edith digs through her student Simon's essay, babbling to him about thesis statements and topic sentences so that she doesn't have to imagine the car, the accident, Coral. She circles moments of illogical reasoning with her red pen. Thesis spelled like thesis, ficus spelled as feces, shows him misplaced commas and a faulty parallelism. She ticks off his name on the class roster, Simon, Emma, Levitt. A toilet across the hall flushes 3 times in a row. Simon pulls the neck of his t-shirt up over his nose. She suspects he probably thinks she's farted when it's just the building's regular smell, really. She can think of no way to broach the topic of the smell. She resists turning to the window, resists sharing her panic with this student. A grain of rice drops onto Simon's essay on the table between them. He pulls a t-shirt away from his face. "That's a maggot," announces Simon, pointing. "So what?" she says. "Yep," says Simon. His lips curl. The braces on his teeth sparkle. Simon pulls the t-shirt back over his nose. They both turn their faces up to the ceiling. Between the edges of the adjoining panels, another rice grain drops out and plops on the desk. She pokes the rice grain with her red pen. She squints, draws her head back so the focus is better. Simon is correct. One rice grain has segments, the rudimentary beginnings of eyes, jaws. The grain abruptly flexes. "Thanks. Bye."
Well, it wouldn't be a proper Coach House event without maybe at least one glitch. But I bet that was empowering to you. I bet you had that image in your head and it was much, much stronger than you actually had seen Suzette read live. So let's call that a win. Here's a real story about a technical glitch at Coach House. One time I was having a phone call just to my right over here, and someone said, "Oh, there's a lot of distortion coming on your end, Jim. Something wrong." And it was actually just a squirrel burrowing through the ceiling. So that hasn't happened yet. Next up, broadcasting all the way from Melbourne, Australia, and reading from his Griffin Poetry Prize-winning collection, Eunoia, the author of Xenotext and Crystallography, Christian Book.
Hello, my name is Christian Book, and I am the author of Eunoia, a book published by Coach House Books. Here I am in Melbourne under lockdown, wishing that I could be there in Toronto to celebrate the Wayzgoose with Coach House Books. But instead, I'm going to perform for you 2 excerpts from my work called Eunoia. I'd like to perform 2 poems from a section entitled Oiseau. This first poem is called Phonemes for Arthur Rimbaud. Phantoms infernal, without refuge or return, phonemes. We will hark if such resurgent souls ordain a dreamt verse. Offspring of perfect murders, so unseen that stranglers fulfill no crime, and thus mourners must call the unjust schemes overdoses. Charmed slumber that engulfs the sleepers, cradled by dreamlike sirens who sing mankind forlorn themes. I, corrupted archangel, shriven when mercy redeems all shadowy specters who plunder shipwrecked believers. You, the Sphinx beheld by disciples, then by infidels. A riddle that grieves a king, a truth that crippled minstrels must bewail in epics like staunch martyrs whom furies spurn. O untempted saint, who lends this typewritten utterance its fervency, an endless cycle of perseverance. Oh, how the bards abolish symbols when the letters burn. This next poem is entitled W for Georges Perec. Andre Breton notes, to the V that stands for viewing what is all around us, eyes turned outward toward the conscious surface of things, surrealism is relentlessly opposed, W. Georges Perec notes, a meaningless distinction on W leads to automatic disqualification. W. It is the V you double, not the U, as if to use two valleys in a valise is to savvy the vacuum of a vowel at a powwow in between saw teeth. It is to ask the painter of a watercolor hue, why owe you twice what a sheep is or a tree, if the fee you double has to hew you a puzzle? An enigma like a game in E, its jigsaw zigzag never fits the excess void left behind by X, the exit on the way from Y to what is said. If you glean an anagram from each angle, do you dabble with your double view of what you hate? A swastika that awaits your Olympiad of riddles? Is this letter a residuum of what troubles you? If you slice it down the middle, does it not hereafter indicate a twofold victory over life? If it maps the rise and fall of fortune like a yo-yo, why oh must you find 4 palm trees in a park, if not to make of them your symbol? It is the name for an X whose V does not view the surface of a lake, but the mirror on a wall, where you and you become a tautonym, a continuum. Thank you one and all at Coach House Books for all of your support over these many years, and I hope that the Wayzgoose goes wonderfully. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Christian. That was incredibly powerful. He rarely reads from that book, so that was amazing. I've just been informed by our technical guru, Tally, that the chat is defaulting, so not everyone's seeing it. Please make sure it goes to panelists and attendees if you want it to be public. Next up, joining us from France, reading from 3 Summers, winner of the inaugural C.D. Wright Award for Poetry, author of Cinema of the Present, Lisa Robertson's Magenta Soul Whip, and most recently her debut novel, The Baudelaire Fractal, Lisa Robertson.
Party. To have a form of existence, to come towards the world, to be avid with disorder and not resembling the idea of the world, a father, evil, pardon, sadness, night, obscenity, to be politics, hurts. There's nothing that excludes her body, not a camel, a flea, a gazelle, a dog, a pig. They distinguish, they accompany, to pierce with the feeling of a conceptual pouring through, or a marbling, as in a harbor, They fall, they break a curve, a group, a combination, to taste and to sleek their mouths, and so to be deprived. To work with rectitude, shine, stupidity, grand and awkward like the bad mood or one's own entire life as a satire on the culture. These were acts of transposition, to house and to butcher and to train. Verbs which have not survived return to sentences that are sleepwalking in honor, a prison, a fox, a breath, a female slave, a gift, a wife, a girl, being believed as a state of relationship. But none of these things from the point of view of increase. Just to be happy, choose to fail everything. The difference between systems and beginning is not a fault, but a curious form of the possibility of working very directly. The difference between increase and nourishment, the form of existence of an animal, the difference between seeds and elements, at the same time, pigeon, duck, mandarin, parrot, fish, tortoise, monkey, gazelle, and deer. She's situated by the telepathy of a pigment, and this time to a nearly total intimacy. He has two sexes, or no sex, or woke with a feeling of well-being in the kidneys, attempted the impersonal form of feeling. He's a woman with no pewter, was hoping the visible would ignite the form of existence of an elephant, attempted for the visible to ignite, the form of an existence of a snake, the form of existence of a human, with the entirety of an abundant shame, the form of existence of women, with orange satin, full expressed argument, the current form of existence, this permeable, sound-absorbing image, lights, lamps, gives food, perceiving's not otherwise divisible. It bathes another's head, the whole body's hunger in the question of how something or somebody appears. The material unlocks because it never just reveals. A basket of sticks, a basket of paper, a suitcase of books, a carpet, a chair, a stove, a lamp, and a bed.
Thank you very much, Lisa. That was absolutely beautiful. I'd like to remind everyone to chime in with the Q&A. Lana will be answering all of your questions afterwards. There's no such thing as stupid questions around here, and if it is a stupid question, I'll be sure to let you know that. I'm wearing my mask because I'm about to introduce our next guest, again, live from the Coach House archives, reading from her Believer Book Award-winning novel, Maidenhead, author of Queen Solomon, Little Cat, and Little Cat, Tamara Faith Berger.
Hi, everyone. Happy Wayzgoose. So Maidenhead is about a family vacation gone wrong. The fourth night, we went to this supposedly fancy restaurant, not one of those college kid joints. This one was called Ralph's. I knew my mother wanted to leave the second we got there because some 20-year-old ponytailed shrimp in short shorts was leading us down a backlit wall to a booth at the back. I was just glad it was dark and they had spaghetti bolognese. Our waitress had on a tight baby tee with a drawn-on tuxedo. Her name tag said Tammy. She leaned down into our leathery circular booth to take our order. Jody and Jeff and I were trying not to laugh, but my mom was tense. Even my dad was too quiet. Later, Jody told us that that place turned into a topless club at night. Kids weren't supposed to be there. Jeff was 14, I was 16. Jody was turning 19 soon. That waitress wasn't wearing a bra, Jeff said when we were back in our room. She had a boob job, Jody said. She was probably a triple D or something, but her breasts didn't sag or move at all. That is physically impossible. Her tits touched my meatballs, I said. Breasts, said my mother. They're called breasts. You're supposed to put the tip in their cleavage at Ralph's. Jody pursed her lips and made her voice go cutesy like Tammy's. That's it. Put it in there, right in there. Her boobs did look weird, I said. Like seals' heads. Gross, said Jeff. My mother looked at my father. My father shrugged. Jody got into bed with me that night, and Jeff got into the cot in the middle. I was eating a bag of potato chips, licking my fingers after each one. We were watching a comedy on one of those channels that we didn't get at home. Bette Midler and Shelley Long were pretending to be Russian sisters who didn't speak English, trying to get on a plane. They had kerchiefs around their heads and the most pathetic, dramatic-y, sad mask expressions. No one thought they were Russian, but they kept pretending to be, and they knew that the attendant at the counter didn't believe them, but they couldn't stop talking and acting that way in gibberish Russian, looking fake sad, trying to get pity from the woman at the counter by saying that their father had died and they had to get home. I started laughing so hard at that scene for some reason. The sounds coming out of my mouth became wheezes. They were ridiculous as sisters, too close and never stopping the gibberish talk, even though they were in on the same dying joke. They were milking it hard. They kept milking it so hard. Tears rolled down my cheeks. My family started laughing at me, mostly because I just couldn't stop. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamara. That's a difficult novel to read from at a Wayzgoose. You know, pull it off. Wrapping up tonight. Let me check my script. I know who it is. I just don't know what I'm going to say about it. And finally, reading from 15 Dogs, the winner of the Giller Prize and the Rogers Writers Trust Fiction Prize, the author of Pastoral, Hidden Keys, and Days by Moonlight, Andre Alexis.
Hi, I'm going to read from a novel called 15 Dogs, and the passage I'm reading is from near the beginning, after a couple of Greek gods have given human intelligence to a number of dogs. The 12 dogs who set out from Shaw were driven as much by confusion as anything else. The world seemed new and marvelous, and yet it was familiar and banal. Nothing should have surprised them, yet everything did. The pack moved warily, going south on Strong, over the bridge, down to the lake. They were, it has to be said, almost instinctively drawn to the lake shore. Its confluence of reeks was as bewitching to the dogs as the smell of an early morning bakery is to humans. There was, first, the lake itself, sour, vegetal, fishy. Then there was the smell of the geese, ducks, and other birds. More enticing still, there was the smell of bird shit, which was like a kind of hard salad sautéed in goose fat. Finally, there were more evanescent whiffs: cooked pork, tomatoes, grease from cow's meat, corn, bread, sweetness, and milk. None of them could resist it, though there was little shelter by the lake, few places to hide if masters came for them. None could resist the lake, but it occurred to Majnun that they should. It occurred to him that the city was the worst place for them to be, filled as it was with beings that feared dogs who would not do their bidding. What they needed, thought Majnun, was a place where they would be safe until they decided on a course that was good for all of them. It also occurred to him that Atticus, who was at the head of the pack, was not necessarily the one to lead. It wasn't that he himself wanted to lead. Though he was swept up in the present adventure and fairly happy to be with the others, Majnun was more comfortable around humans. He did not trust other dogs. This made the thought of leadership unpleasant to him. The true things, food, shelter, water, would have to be dealt with by all. But who would lead? And whom would he choose to follow? It was dark, though the moon fell out of its pocket of clouds from time to time. 4 in the morning, the world full of shadows. The gates to the Canadian National Exhibition loomed as if they might totter and crush anything beneath them. There were not many cars, but Majnoon waited for the green light at the bottom of the street. Half of the pack, Rosie, Athena, Benji, an Albertan mutt named Prince, and a duck taller named Bobby, waited with him. The other half, Frick, Frack, Dougie, Bella, and a mutt named Max, blithely crossed the boulevard with Atticus. Once they had all crossed, the dark and shushing lake lay before them, while along the promenade lay various types of dung, various bits of food, and other things to be sniffed out. Atticus, a crumpled-faced dog whose instinct was to hunt, could also feel the presence of small animals, rats and mice mostly, and he wanted to go after them. He exhorted the others to hunt with him. "Why?" asked Majnoon. The question, asked with an innovation of the dog's common language, was stunning. Atticus had never considered that it might be right to hold himself back from rats, birds, or food. He considered the why, distractedly licking his snout as he did. Finally, innovating in language himself, he said, "Why not?" Frick and Frack, delighted, immediately agreed. "Why not?" they asked. "Why not?" "Where will we hide if a master comes?" answered Majnoon. A more subtle question no dog could have asked. Thank you.
Holy mackerel. Wasn't that a great selection of readings? I feel so honored that we get to work with these amazing authors, among many others, every day. So thanks to all of our authors for those really great readings. And sincere apologies, Suzette. I don't know what happened. Every time we looked at your video, we could see it, and then your face disappeared. But we could still hear your voice, so that was good. Last chance for questions. I see that we don't have any questions, which I think means that you guys all have all the answers, which is totally fine. But this is your last chance if you do want to ask anything of Team Coach House. I would note for the record that I did not tell James to button up his shirt, and also that the plural of Wayzgoose, James, is Wayzgeese. So.
Slime!
So I promised a surprise at the beginning, and what that surprise is that if you post a picture of yourself Wayzgoosing, like I suggested at the beginning, we're going to pick 5 of you to win the book of your choice and a Coach House tote bag. So it's not too late. Go ahead and post. I see some of you did already. Very naughty Kirby. And also be sure to check out People's Pint. They're an amazing Wayzgoose package. And also don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at chbooks.com and follow us on social media. So we're also very grateful to our independent bookstore partners for helping us to promote this event, and of course, more generally, every single day. The pandemic has been hard on all of us, and our indie bookseller friends could definitely use all the love and dollars you can spare. If the Wayzgoose has inspired you to buy a Coach House book or two, please consider getting it from your local bookstore. We're especially fond of the following bookstores, and we thank them for their enthusiasm about the Wayzgoose: Type Books in Toronto, Glass Bookshop in Edmonton, Flying Books in Toronto, McNally Robinson in Winnipeg, Shelf Life Books in Calgary, Queen Books in Toronto, Another Story in Toronto, Madison Street Books in Chicago. Sorry, they're telling me there's a question. Madison Street Books in Chicago, 57th Street Books and Seminary Co-op in Chicago, $2 Radio in Columbus, Deep Vellum in Dallas, Point Reyes Books in Point Reyes, California, and Interrobang Books in Dallas. Please support them. There's a list with links in the chat. And for those of you who don't have a local indie bookstore, you can buy any of our books from our own website, chbooks.com, until midnight on Labor Day, that's Monday. Our backlist books, that is books that probably are not available in your local store, books published before 2020, pre-pandemic books, books from the before times, will be 25% off on our website. So the code to use is GLADYS, G-L-A-D-Y-S, the name of the adorably illuminating goose you saw at the start of the show. chbooks.com, code GLADYS for 25% off backlist titles. And James is trying to tell me something. Oh, all caps Gladys. Talia, we have a question?
When is Alana going to launch Wayzgoose wine?
In about 3 minutes. Yeah, that's a project for next year. We'll definitely work on that. So that's all that we have to tell you. We're so happy that you chose to spend an hour of a Thursday with us tonight. Thanks again to our authors, our bookseller friends, to Talia and James, and to all of you for being good sports during this virtual Wayzgoose. So thank you so much, and good night.
Hey! It worked, sort of. Yeah, no, great.